But at this point yesterday, we had Rick Carlisle of the Dallas Mavericks on the show. He is the president of the NBA Coaches Association, NBCA, National Basketball Coaches Association. And he mentioned how within hours after the murder of George Floyd on the streets of Minneapolis, he said that all 30 NBA head coaches got together on a Zoom and had a conversation about what that was all about and what next and what they could all do together. And he said that they were leading, trying to lead the way, and he was taking the lead of the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks, Lloyd Pierce, who's kind enough to join me right here at the top of this hour on this day of the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Coach?
I'm well. How are you doing, Rich? Appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate you taking the time. So walk me through what Rick Carlisle was kind of walking me through yesterday about that 30-wide, if you will, all NBA head coaches Zoom, which he said was within the hours of what everybody saw and was horrified by on the streets of Minneapolis, Coach.
Yeah, I reached out to Coach Carlisle and David Fogel. They run they're in charge of the NBCA, and I just said, listen, we meet on everything having to do with coach-related issues, our 401ks, the direction of the funding for the Coaches Association, contracts, things of that nature, things that are important to us, and there's not a bigger issue that was important to me than what we're seeing with regards to African Americans and police brutality and just the entirety of what's going on in our country. And I just felt, we have too big of a platform, and we are united already as an association of coaches that we have to discuss this, because we lead a league of African American men, predominant African American men, and we lead a league that these men have to deal with these issues. And for us to be leaders, we need to be educated, and we need to do it in a way where we're united on that education and spreading that platform, using our platform to do that.
So what was that conversation like? Can you share?
It was easy. I said, Rick, I can't cuss on your show, but I used some words.
Yes.
I said, I'm vulnerable right now. I'm angered. I'm vulnerable. I'm an African-American coach. I'm a young African-American coach. I have a young African-American team in terms of the players that we have. And it's going to be hard for me to lead knowing that I'm feeling the same way that some of them may be feeling. And we have to discuss this as coaches. We can't just walk in and say we can't wait for the season to start, and we haven't addressed a real live issue that's going on in our country. And so I expressed that. I told them we have to do something, and that's the point of a union, of a coaches association, is to address matters that are important, and this is important.
So what was the conversation like when you all got on the Zoom?
They gave me the platform to speak, and I spoke freely, and I spoke openly, and I spoke passionately about systemic racism, blatant racism, and the fact that we need to do something. And, from the response, we had every coach there, and there was dialogue with every coach after, but the response was simple. Thank you. This is needed. What can we do? And I truly mean that when I say all 30 coaches were passionate, they were energized, they've been motivated, and they still are, to use their platform in their cities to address racism, to talk about the issues that we've never confronted in the history of our country, and to try and build up our communities through this education. And our coaches, I tell you what, our coaches are phenomenal right now with their attendance, with their attention, with the email chains that we have going on, with the text messages that we have going on, sharing articles, sharing information, having dialogue, reaching out to a community relations team. It's been enjoyable to be a part of, but we know we have a lot of work to do. Well,
you're Lloyd Pierce, Atlanta Hawks head coach, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, and I'm appreciative of you joining. And I look forward to having you on subjects about the sport itself, which I'll get to in a second. But your Instagram post, where it was just a shot of your face close up, I want to give you the floor on what that was and calling people's attention to it to check out on your Instagram account and allow you to sort of walk us through why you posted it, what was going through your mind, and what's going through it now.
I posted it because I think sometimes people feel things more when it's closer to you, when it's closer to your heart, when you have a connection. You feel the depth of a person when it's a friend, a family friend, someone that you knew. It attacks you emotionally. And so I'm a head coach, and I just wanted to know my followers and people that know me as a head coach. I wanted them to know that I'm also a black man. And for 44 years, I've been a black man. And if you change the words, if you don't know that it's Coach Pierce and you realize that I've been affected by this tragedy that George Floyd has experienced and his family has experienced, it can happen to me. It almost will happen to me in some form or fashion, whether it's me directly, someone I'm related to, or someone that I know. And then a lot of times I think we move on because it doesn't hit us. And I just wanted it to hit everybody the way it's hitting me. And so if I zoom in, you just know it's a black man. You zoom out and you say, oh, my goodness, I didn't realize it was Coach Pierce. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter who it is. It shouldn't happen to any African-American person. It shouldn't happen to any person. It definitely shouldn't happen to any black people because of the color of their skin. And that's what's happening right now.
Lloyd Pierce, Hawks head coach here on the Rich Eisen Show. Prior to your tenure with the Hawks, you spent a few years as an assistant, LeBron James, on that team in Cleveland. I'm assuming you saw, like the rest of us, that LeBron James and several other African-American stars and athletes and entertainers are going to get together, and they have formed something called More Than a Vote, aimed at inspiring African-Americans to register and cast a ballot in November. I assume you were part, there's a lot of assumptions here, of what we saw this past week in the state of Georgia, and there's a photograph, I guess, of you and your is this your
my wife.
Your wife, and so there you are. Many people across this country are terming what was going down in the state of Georgia as purposeful disenfranchisement. I'm wondering where you stand on this subject and whether you're going to bring your platform to what LeBron is starting right now.
I just sent him a text message less than an hour ago saying that I'm all in. Our organization, we're having discussions about what we can do. I live in the suburbs. I live in Brookhaven, which is right next to Buckhead, which is popular in Atlanta. It's still in Metro Atlanta, but I'm in DeKalb County, and my voting process was 20 minutes. But when you get into the heart of the city, where it's South Atlanta, Fulton County, where it is lower income, it is some areas are African American dominant. It's the same thing. I witnessed this when I first got here. We had the issue with the governor's race, and voter suppression occurred then. The voter suppression occurred here at 7 a.m., which was amazing. It was blatant that there was going to be issues in Fulton County and many other counties in the state of Georgia. But it's voter suppression at its finest. It is purposeful. We can't have these same issues. I love what LeBron and the other athletes are doing to address it and partner with the local organizations to get registration going, get education going, and get people to the polls. But, enough's enough. It's about as blatant and as purposeful as it can be, and it's sad that it's here in our state, but it's definitely by design, and it's a frustrating chain of events that have occurred for many years in the state of Georgia.
Yes, and apparently one of the teammates, if you will, for LeBron on More Than a Vote is Trae Young, who you know very, very well, as you're trying to have his career blossom even more amazingly already. And he was vocal, if I'm not mistaken, active in some of the protesting that went down.
Yeah, out in Norman, his hometown. He spoke of doing that with a family member and really just doing something that he's never done before. It's out of his comfort zone, but having the courage and the bravery to do it. And here you see him again joining forces with the other athletes to represent the city of Atlanta and the voter suppression issues that we have. You talk about young players, and you talk about all our young players, and couldn't be more proud of our guys, our players. You're seeing J.J. Redick speak out, Kyle Korver speak out, LeBron James speak out, Trae Young speak out, Donovan Mitchell speak out. You're seeing Jaylen Brown drive 15 hours to get to Atlanta to protest, and Malcolm Brogdon. Proud of our guys, proud of our league, proud of our guys really stepping to the forefront. And it's our job now as coaches, guys that are supposed to lead these guys, to support them and to encourage them. And this is going to help, for me personally, Trey's growth, his development, to use his voice, to use his platform purposely.
Yeah, I think does he need to work on his horse game a little bit? If I recall that a few weeks ago.
Well, Chauncey's pretty good. They don't call him Mr. Big Shot for nothing.
Right? I didn't see.
That's a tough first round matchup.
Hey, he definitely got the poor draw. He got the poor draw.
His first matchup is Mr. Big Shot. Man, that's a tough draw.
But I do love his game. I do love Trey's game. No doubt about it. He's one of the more dynamic players in this league and exciting players in this league. I mean, when the Hawks do get back out there, Coach, what is defense? Obviously, has been a subject of conversation, as you know, in your world over the last 24 hours. Your bailiwick, if you will, from your time with Philadelphia. Where do you stand on that subject right here, Lloyd, bringing that to your attention?
To me, it's mindset. I think when we have that commitment and we have that we mentality, you see in The Last Dance, and really educational to watch that Michael Jordan shifting and really adopting this we mentality and getting his guys and rallying his guys and trusting his guys. When we're that way and we have the mindset to be that way and we have the mindset that we're no longer player development and youth isn't an excuse, all of the things are going to come together. Our offense needs to improve. Our defense needs to improve. Our approach needs to improve. And so it's our mindset. We're going to shift our mindset. We're going to work on that, and we're going to do it together. And I look forward to our group next year. I
love how you mentioned The Last Dance like that, Coach, because I had, again, I guess to bring it full circle here with Rick Carlisle, because he was on the bench as an assistant for Larry Bird and those Pacer teams that were prominently displayed in the last couple episodes of The Last Dance, as well as a member of the Knicks who had to deal with Jordan at the end of the 80s as he was ascending to his greatness. I asked him what he learned from it, and he kind of laughed. And he talked about how, one thing, Phil Jackson, how Phil, he gained even more respect for Phil for what Jackson had to weave together and put everything together. And then he also talked about the mindset and how today's players need to heed, I guess, the mindset about being about the rings. Would you agree with that?
It's unfortunate that we got away from that. I don't know, in sport, the ultimate is winning. It's all about, the journey and getting through to get that last victory. And, when we got away from that, I don't know. I don't know who or how, but, that's important. I think we're all going to have accolades. We're all going to have success from sport in our own individual ways. Me being a head coach, wow, that's great. I want to win. I want to be known as a guy that was able to turn this program around and became a championship contender for many years and get that victory here for the city of Atlanta. And so, that's the mindset our league has to adopt and our players. And we're going to do it individually with our own teams, but that's it. There's nothing else. We can talk about everything. That's it. It's about winning, and how do we get to doing it together. That's the we mentality that we have to have. I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the process, and we're gonna focus on that the entire time. But the end game is getting that ring.
Yeah, I guess maybe you won't have to deal like Phil did with a player wanting to go to Vegas in the middle of the year or WWE in the middle of a championship. It is amazing.
Listen, if a guy needs that break and he's that much of a contributor, I got to adjust, and it works for Phil. He's got 6 of them. If someone needs that trip to Miami for the weekend, we'll have to make do. That's the we mentality. Somebody else needs to step up.
I guess so. Hey, Lloyd, I appreciate the time. Let's continue. Let's continue talking. I really appreciated this conversation, and we now are showing your Instagram post of your face and what it really again means. Is truly remarkable, and I'm glad that we brought you on the show to bring this to everybody's attention if they needed it anymore. And I'd love to continue you being on this show as a platform dialogue, and obviously as the Hawks begin to get back into action and win some games.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I've told everyone that I've spoken to, you wanting to have me on is even more important. To keep this conversation going and keep this dialogue going. So I appreciate you for that.
My pleasure. Let's do it again. Thanks, Coach. That's
Thank you.
Lloyd Pierce, the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks, here on The Rich Eisen Show.